In the front of that fire came Glaurung, the golden father of dragons, in his full might, and in his train were Balrogs, and behind them came the black armies of the orcs in multitudes such as the Noldor had never before seen or imagined. And they assaulted the fortresses of the Noldor, and broke the leaguer about Angband, and slew wherever they found them the Noldor and their allies, grey elves and men. Many of these stoutest of the foes of Morgoth were destroyed in the first days of that war, bewildered and dispersed and unable to muster their strength. War ceased not wholly ever again in Beleriand, but the Battle of Sudden Flame is held to have ended with the coming of spring, when the onslaught of Morgoth grew less. An excerpt from the Silmarillion. Explorer of worlds, welcome to our journey. Today we're going to look at one of the fiercest, most tragic battles in the history of Middle-earth. This, like many tales in the histories we are exploring, does not have a happy ending. In the Elder Days, the Noldor elves, led by their fiery oath against Morgoth for the theft of the Silmarils, returned to Middle-earth. They established realms and laid siege to Morgoth's fortress, Angband, containing his malice for centuries. Yet beneath Thangorodrim, a group of 3 massive volcanoes in the Iron Mountains, Morgoth nurtured his power, plotting the destruction of his besiegers. The tranquility was a mere prelude to the storm that would become the Dagor Bragollach, the Battle of Sudden Flame, marking a pivotal clash in the saga of Middle-earth. The Dagor Bragollach, translating to the Battle of Sudden Flame, was a cataclysmic event that reshaped the conflict between the Elves and Morgoth, the first Dark Lord of Middle-earth. Its onset was marked by a literal and metaphorical explosion of violence, unprecedented in its ferocity and scale. The River of Fire refers to the massive outpouring of volcanic flames and lava from the Thangorodrim, the 3 volcanic mountains that towered over Morgoth's fortress of Angband. This eruption sent rivers of fire flowing across the plains of Ard Garlan, transforming the lush green lands into a desolate, scorched wasteland almost instantly. The fires served not only as a weapon, but also as a signal, heralding the unleashing of Morgoth's hitherto contained wrath upon the unsuspecting armies of the elves and their allies. The appearance of dragons in this battle, particularly Glaurung, the father of dragons, marked a turning point in Middle-earth's warfare. While dragons had existed before, their deployment in open battle in such numbers and with such strategic intent was indeed a first, showcasing Morgoth's growing power and his willingness to unleash his most devastating creations. Glaurung, along with other lesser dragons, brought terror and destruction to the elven ranks, their fiery breath causing havoc and their sheer physical might breaking through the defensive lines that the elves had so painstakingly established. The battle itself was a multifaceted disaster for the forces opposing Morgoth. The initial surprise of the Rivers of Fire was compounded by the onslaught of orcs, trolls, and other dark creatures that followed. The defenders, already reeling from the environmental devastation, found themselves overwhelmed by the sheer number of attackers and the ferocity of their assault. The Balrogs, fiery demons of great power, led the charge, their whips and swords of flame cutting through the ranks of elves and men. The forces of Morgoth broke through the siege of Angband, which had lasted for nearly 4 centuries, pushing the front lines back and causing significant losses among the Noldor and their allies. The strategic implications of the battle were profound. The once united front of the elven kingdoms under the Noldor was fractured, with many of the lands they had defended falling into Morgoth's hands. The psychological impact was just as severe, with the suddenness and the scale of the attack demoralizing the survivors. Key figures and leaders were lost, and the geography of the north of Middle-earth was irrevocably changed. The Dagor Bragollach, therefore, was not just a physical confrontation, but a pivotal moment that signified the escalation of Morgoth's war against the free peoples of Middle-earth, demonstrating his willingness to deploy his most fearsome weapons and creatures in his quest for dominion. As Morgoth's forces spilled forth, the lands of Beleriand bore witness to acts of unparalleled bravery juxtaposed with heartbreaking losses, embodying the eternal struggle between light and shadow. Among the tales of heroism, none shines brighter than the final stand of High King Fingolfin. Driven by grief and fury at the devastation wrought upon his people, Fingolfin rode alone to the gates of Angband, challenging Morgoth to single combat. In the face of certain death, his duel with the Dark Lord remains one of the most poignant acts of courage, showcasing the indomitable spirit of the Eldar. Though he fell, Fingolfin wounded Morgoth 7 times, leaving him with limping wounds that would never fully heal, a testament to the High King's valor and the possibility of defiance, even in despair. The tragedy of the Dagor Bragollach is further deepened by the loss of great leaders and the scattering of once united forces. The plains of Ardgarlan were transformed into a desolate wasteland named Unforgettable, the gasping dust, a grim reminder of the battle's devastation. Many noble elves and men fell, and the elven realms of Beleriand were irrevocably fractured, diminishing their collective strength and heralding a darker era where Morgoth's shadow grew ever longer. The Battle of Dagor Bragollach, or the Battle of Sudden Flame, marked a critical juncture in the First Age, drastically altering the course of the war against Morgoth and the fate of Beleriand. The once stalwart defenses of the Noldorin kingdoms, meticulously forged through alliances and fortified by the valor of elves, men and dwarves, were catastrophically breached. The flames unleashed from the volcanoes of Thangorodrim not only decimated the physical barriers protecting the free peoples, but also shattered the unity and morale that had been their greatest strength. Among the most grievous losses were the fall of the fortress of Minas Tirith, not to be confused with the Gondorian city of the same name in the Third Age, on the island of Tol Sirion, which guarded the Pass of Sirion. Its capture by Sauron, Morgoth's chief lieutenant, allowed the forces of darkness to control the crucial pass, splitting the allied territories and cutting off vital lines of communication and supply. The devastation also led to the personal tragedy for many of Middle-earth's most illustrious heroes. Arguably the most poignant was the death of Barahir and the disbanding of his outlaw band, which included his son Beren, later famed for his quest for the Silmaril. The noble house of Beor was nearly extinguished, save for a few, symbolizing the dire threat Morgoth posed to the lineage of men. Moreover, the repercussions of the battle were felt across the elven realms. The kingdom of Doriath, under Thingol, became an isolated stronghold, its borders closed against the encroaching darkness. Nargothrond, led by Orodreth, adopted a policy of secrecy and isolation, weakening the collective defense against Morgoth. Similarly, the realm of Gondolin, whose location remained hidden, was further cut off from potential allies, sealing its fate to stand alone in the wars to come. The psychological aftermath of the Dagor Bragollach cannot be overstated. The elves witnessed not only the physical destruction of their lands, but also the erosion of their hope for victory. The onslaught demonstrated Morgoth's sheer power and his willingness to lay waste to entire regions to achieve his ends. This realization instilled a deep-seated fear and resignation among many, accelerating the decline of the Noldorin resistance. In essence, the Dagor Bragollach was more than a battle. It was the harbinger of a darker age where Morgoth's malice would spread almost unchecked, leading to further tragedies and the eventual necessity of divine intervention in the War of Wrath. The strategic, psychological, and geographical impacts of this cataclysmic event reshaped the destiny of Middle-earth, setting the stage for the tales of heroism and despair that would follow. Thus concludes today's video, Explorer. We hope you liked it and will venture on and explore our library. If you have any requests for videos that you think you or your fellow explorers would enjoy, please comment below. Also, we invite you to subscribe to our channel to join our fellowship.